Following years of delays, Canada and the United States inked a deal in 2023 for Canada to purchase 88 American-made F-35 fighter jets. The initial batch of 16 planes is in production, but in the spring, Ottawa said it's reviewing the deal. This despite concerns this could put the bilateral defense alliance between Canada and the US in jeopardy if Canada takes back on the plan. Let's now bring in CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair in the conversation. Good afternoon, Tom. Great to see you.
Good to be with you, Akshay.
Let's start with the Conservative leader now. Pierre Poilievre this morning continuing his push to get the government to take up his party's bill on bail reform. How do you see that playing out in the Parliament?
He's mining a very rich vein. That's political gold that he's after there, because wherever you go in Canada, I live in Quebec, and day after day you have horror stories, front page news, literally, Akshay, day after day, of people who were, like, these are real numbers, like 19th conviction and the person's let out again. And people are just losing it. There are not enough prosecutors, there are not enough staff, there's not enough energy and resources being put into the justice system, whether it's federally or provincially. And the average member of the voting public is just saying, this doesn't make any sense. So Poilievre knows of what he speaks. He sees a good opportunity, and he's going to be going after it whole hog. Now, the standard playbook for any government in a case like this is to say, oh, well, we've already been aware of this for some time. We're going to come up with a piece of legislation that the government will be bringing into the House of Commons. We'll see whether that works, because I don't know anybody who said that what's being proposed by Poilievre is singularly defective, and it can always be, geared up and improved. It's a minority parliament. It might be a gracious gesture on the part of the Liberals if they were to actually accept what Poilievre is proposing.
Recalling what happened, I think it was Thursday or Friday, when the Prime Minister was asked by Pierre Poilievre time and again over this particular issue, and the Prime Minister did say exactly what you were saying, Tom. Yes, we are working on a deal, on a program, on a bill, which will come out really soon. Again, giving no certain dates or a timeline, but just saying we're working on it. Your thoughts on how far the Liberals will go on this bail reform?
If this is political gold for the Conservatives, it can quickly become political kryptonite for Prime Minister Carney and his Liberal team. They've got to accept the fact that sometimes good common sense prevails. People read this in their papers day after day, and they're saying, this doesn't make any sense, that people who commit these crimes over and over again are constantly being let back out, often with tragic consequences. I thought, by the way, that Poilievre had worked very hard on his tone there. He wasn't, his usual snide self. He wasn't trying to be snarky or smarty pants. He was just laying it out, and I think that a lot of Canadians are going to be listening to that tone on a very real issue. So Carney had better get with the program. If he's got his Justice Department that's going to come up with something, they're going to say, well, it dovetails better with what exists, and they bring it forward. I don't know if anybody's going to vote against it. But if Poilievre's bill is ready to go, why not show that you're thinking of the average Canadian who is right now very worried about their security? These themes of law and order are often portrayed as being right versus left, but they're actually right versus wrong. It's wrong to let people out time and time again when they're dangerous to society. Right. And we've got to start tightening that up, period.
Speaking about the Prime Minister, months in power, elected on the promise of getting a trade deal with the United States, Prime Minister Carney is making his second visit to Washington this week, Tom. And expectations are high from the industry because we haven't seen much movement, or we don't know how far we've gone where a trade deal is concerned.
In your setup, you mentioned that they had already been spinning a little bit on steel and aluminum. Maybe there is some movement there. My sense is that Carney would be foolhardy to go down there unless he had something a little bit more solid than that. I think that they're going to try to underplay expectations, because you never know with Trump. He could say one thing through his negotiating team one day and then completely tear it up the next. So there is that element here. But I think that Carney, and I think that Dominic LeBlanc, frankly, deserves a heck of a lot of credit. He's been doing the type of very strong work on the ground. He talked to the Senate a little bit last week. He's out there a little bit, doesn't give a lot of press conferences, doesn't talk about it a great deal, but he's in Washington constantly. Kirsten Hillman, our tremendous, of course, U.S. ambassador, has been putting in, the same 20-hour days as Dominic LeBlanc. And I do think that there is a possible breakthrough here. One of the reasons I think there's a possible breakthrough. Actually, if you've got 45% tariff on Canadian softwood lumber, the average American might say, well, that's great. You're just giving billions of dollars into our treasury. But hold on, it's not the Canadian government paying that, and it's not even the Canadian companies paying that. It's the American buyers who are paying that. And ultimately, that means American consumers are going to be paying $50,000, $100,000 more for a new house because all the lumber costs 50% more because Donald Trump wanted to give a tax break to rich people like him. And he sucker punched the average working family who says, yeah, Trump's great, he's got these tariffs, but they're the ones who are paying the tariffs in increased costs for their pickup truck or for their new home. And it's complicated and it's taken a while to get through, but I do believe that the average American is starting to understand that that's the case.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Of course, all eyes on that visit of Prime Minister Carney to Washington. But for the moment, CTV News political commentator, former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Thank you for this, Tom.
All the best, Akshay.